In your life and in your relationship. It's not just your relationship.
Mm-hmm. All right, what's up, YouTube? We're going to give y'all a chance to come on in here. What's up, Facebook? What's up, Facebook?
What's happening? What's happening this evening?
Yeah. Hopefully, everybody's doing well out there. We're coming to y'all live again on a Thursday for our, what we call this, Relationship Revolution.
No,
we ain't picked no particular name for it.
It's just Relationship Thursdays.
I like Relationship Revolution.
I know what you just. I mean, you said, what do we call this? Like we don't call it nothing.
I like Relationship Revolution.
Relationship Thursdays.
So we're going to give people a chance to come on up in here. So we're going to hold fast for a minute. What's up, YouTube? And if y'all can hear us, let us know. Drop a comment letting us know where y'all are chiming in from. And then we're going to get this thing on and popping here, y'all.
Man, tonight is going to be one of those nights where it's just a little sensitive, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little sensitive. It's a little, I don't know what else to say other than we'll be talking about some emotions, some deep things. We're going to be exploring hurt, loss, grief, whether it be in your relationship, your life. We can experience, these kind of things from all kind of situations. So we're going to be talking some deep stuff tonight, but we want to know where you are watching from. We want to know where you tuning in from. So go ahead and drop that. And thank you, Eddie Johnson, for sharing this video. This is my wonderful, my awesome, my dynamic, my debonair, knight in shining armor, my husband, Ayize Ma'at.
I be that dude.
You be that dude.
I do. And this right here is my queen, the love of my life, my confidant, my comforter, my warm, comfy blanket, my nurturer, my inspirer, my advocate, my accountability partner, my lovely and incredible wife, Iana Ma'at.
Dang, why you gotta try to outdo me though?
How you doing, babe?
I'm doing all right. For those who are joining us for the first time, we are married. We are boo things.
Boo things.
We are licensed therapists, and we love to do this work. I see y'all on YouTube. I'm about to shout y'all out in a second. Cheryl, you watching from YouTube tonight? I see you. Hey, fam. We like to do this work not just because it's a part of what we feel we're called to do, but also because we get something from it. So if you get anything from it, go on ahead and share it. Thank you, Eddie. We love you too. Marco, if you get anything tonight, just go ahead and share it. Just drop a comment. The comments that y'all drop are so good and are so helpful. So as we're moving along this evening and we're talking about this thing, I want y'all to keep it 100. Talk about what you've experienced in your own life. Share your thoughts and feelings because somebody somewhere is going to be helped by it. That's for sure. I know I am, and I know everybody is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's undeniable, y'all. So, again, make sure that you are sharing this video right here. Post it. Go ahead and post it to your page, too, babe. This right here is going to be, like my wife mentioned, something really, really special. And, we don't take this opportunity to get in front of y'all for granted. We recognize that this right here is something that you want to make sure that it's an honored position to be in. And so, again, my wife, she mentioned that we're both licensed therapists. But, this right here ain't therapy. It's edutainment. And tonight, it's going to be not necessarily on a light, funny, jokey joke side, but, a little bit more serious because
sometimes we can't help it.
Yeah, a little bit more serious because there's some serious things going on out here, y'all. And I lift that up and I say that because, a lot of people are dealing with things in this new year. A lot of stress, a lot of struggle, a lot of drama, a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of loss, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration. Yes. And, to deal with that type of stuff and to go through that, you don't want to go through it alone. You want to make sure that you have people there with you. And some people, they isolate themselves and they wall themselves up and they don't have anybody to turn to. And so, again, this video right here tonight, y'all, is going to be us as a community comforting each other. Us as a community reaching out and high-fiving each other, celebrating each other as we move in 2018 to a different beat, a different step, and we console and we, nurture those people that might be going through some difficult times right now, y'all. So again, as we start this thing off, I just encourage y'all to share this video because in doing that, you're going to definitely be helping somebody else out.
All right, guys. So for those who are just joining us, again, tonight we are talking about I wish my arms weren't too short to box with God. My goodness. We're going to explore hurt, loss, and grief within the context of your relationship, your life. If anybody knows anything about that, then you know you're in the right place. 529 already said a lot. If you know a little something about that, you in the right place. A lot. I see you, Gary Treasure. I just want to shout you out. I also want to shout out Devontae, Shakira. Thank you, sis. Thank you. She already knows. I'm getting ready to talk about that. She says sorry for your loss. I want to shout out Cleveland, Ohio in the house, and Tracy in San Antonio. So many people. Alicia from Brooklyn, New York. Look, Alicia, you talking about something, you late. Do you get on these jokes with us? You already know.
You know how late.
We was late too. Okay. So let me share from my own life and my own situation. We were compelled to do this particular focus on this evening because I lost someone. What's up, DC? Always representing DMV. We see you, Nadia. I lost someone, and I just want to share with you all. I want to show not just me.
Before you share, can I set the context?
You can.
Set the backdrop.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So last Tuesday, y'all, I'm on my way home, and my wife, she gives me a call. And if any of y'all are in a relationship with your partner, you're really connected in with your partner, you know when you've gotten a call and you hear your partner's voice, your wife's voice, and it just sounds a little bit different, a little bit off. So when I answered the phone, there was a little hesitation in my wife's voice. And so I said almost instantaneously, like, what's wrong, baby? And I asked that question because, again, I heard just in her breathing and the pause that just something was awry, something was off. And so I asked her, you know, what the deal was. And we were scheduled to do a live stream that night that we had to back out on, just based off of the space that we were shifted into after my wife shared with me what she shared, actually prior to, because you were already in that space. But so I said, what's wrong, baby? And what did you say?
Yeah. So not just me, so many people, some of you who are watching now, or who will find this video later, may even know of this wonderful soul. This is somebody who I grew up in the church with. This is somebody who has been an inspiration to me and to so many people in the last 3 years. This is her fabulous program from her funeral today. Can you see that? This is my sister who has transitioned now, Jennifer Washington Grillo, and it says celebrating the essence of Jennifer Benet Grillo, woman of style, grace, and faith. And so I met Jennifer. I mean, you know, my parents were the pastors. Her parents were heavily involved in the church, Deacon Dave Washington, and our families, you know, we were in families, you know, everybody's just kind of there all the time, you know. Jennifer's folks were there all the time. And we grew up together, you know what I'm saying, cutting up, you know, not listening, running around in the church, that kind of thing. In that setting, her and so many others, Marcy and Maia and Missy and LaJanice and, you know, Nikki and Angie and I mean, Kenny and Anthony Brown, man, but I can just go on and on, right? So let me not continue with that. Khalil, Raouf, there's so many of us. And so we had this unit. And so as I've grown up and we've gone on, and some of you may be able to resonate with the fact that, you know, you had some folks from back in the day in a certain community, whether it was in school or whatever. And then I found out 3 years ago, essentially, she had breast cancer, and she, through a hard struggle, beat that cancer. And as a side effect of the medicine that she was taking, it affected her heart. And so she ended up needing a new heart. And she has been fighting for the last 3 years to get this new heart to overcome, right? And she has been like, y'all, when I talk about, have you ever been around somebody, anybody have anybody in your life who's gone through some things, like, how in the world do they keep being so positive? they keep moving so clearly and powerfully and purposefully. Like she had her own business and she employed people and she was a wonderful wife and she was still very clear about her faith and you know, it's hard, but I'm gonna keep pushing. She had a whole community here on Facebook, Winning with Jen. and you just like witnessed her walk and you're like, dang, like let me get my butt up and do something because she had to deal with so much. And then anybody know about this? Yeah, it's gonna be deep tonight, Travis. Went through all of that. Your mother was like that, Cherry. Says she knows about that. We as a community, her church community, her sorors, all the people who knew her family, we were watching her and we were convinced. I was convinced. Oh, I was convinced. She about to have a serious testimony when she gets to the end of this thing. And what happened? January the 23rd. Mm-hmm. The 23rd, she was taken and she didn't make it to the other side. She actually got a new heart. After all of that, the chemo messed up her heart. She got a new heart and the heart ended up not being a successful, you know, process just to kind of, and was not able to survive. You know, and it's like, yo, I mean, right now, you see the title? I wish my arms weren't too short to box with God. I don't know what to say. But sometimes you go through some things where you're just like, what is this? What is the purpose of this, God? Wait a minute. So 3 years of fighting and then she's gone? For what? For what? That's just a real honest reaction. We sat before people who have come into our office and counseling and somebody said like, you cheated on me like 3 or 4 times and I'm still here with you. And I'm still trying to make this thing work. What? For what? What is this about, God? Like, what am I supposed to be getting out of this? I want to leave, but I can't find the pull. I'm not compelled to do it. I don't feel as though I'm supposed to. You know what I'm saying? Talk about grief and loss. We just saw beautifully earlier this evening here on Facebook a major announcement by our comrades in this fight to lift up families and marriages that friends of ours, they're pregnant, about to have a baby, and they kind of kept it under wraps because she's 9 months, but they just lost their baby. They lost their baby. Once their baby was here, just a few months old, they lost their baby just a little over a year ago, if even that. You know what I'm saying? Like, why, God? What's up with this thing? So tonight we want to talk about, thank you, Tina, for the thanks. We want to talk about what loss looks like, what grief looks like in your relationship and in your life, and how you can deal with it, what you can expect from it, how you can't avoid it, how we can't get away from it, how it is a natural part of being in relationship with other people. If you find yourself attached to anybody in any way, if you got a coworker who you see every single day, if you got a mama, if you got a daddy and they haven't transitioned yet, if you got a sibling, if you have anybody, you got people here on Facebook, you ain't never seen them, but you feel a connection, then you are at risk for loss, right? Absolutely. You're at risk for loss. And that's just a part of life, especially when you love somebody, you committed yourself to being with that person for the rest of your life and you're trying to build something together. You're at risk. And that's a scary thing for so many of us. Before you say something, I want you to go ahead and share this video, please. Drop a comment. Tell us your thoughts as we're moving along this evening. And as we get into some more about tonight and looking at this whole issue of loss and grief and how to deal with this stuff, because it hurts. It hurts. It hurts,
and it hurts like hell. Hey, what's up, John? I see you joined us. It's devastating, y'all. It's really devastating. And you know, truth be told, I'm actually going to a funeral of someone that I used to work with this upcoming weekend, a young boy, 17 years old, shot down. And so in DC, yeah. And I'm lifting this up to say that, like, you know, you've heard people say nobody knows the day nor the hour. But even though you don't know the day nor the hour, I think that there's this general expectation that if I walk right, if I do right, if I show up right, then I should be good. I really should be good. Like, God, why don't you got me? Why would you let somebody who went through an experience where they suffered from cancer, they overcame that, went through the chemo process, And because of the chemo, ended up needing a new heart. They went through that process, got on the transplant list, got a new heart, and then the heart has an issue. Why would you let somebody go through that process and through it all, they're fighting? They have a testimony. They're telling their story. They're rumbling. They're convinced. They're convicted.
Yeah, man.
So why would you put me in a position where I got to endure all of that? And you're an inspiration to a whole bunch of people. Mm-hmm. People like me, people like my wife, people like who out here in this Facebook community, out here in the world. You're an inspiration. And then you go through all of that only to find out that your life still comes to an end prematurely. Like, why, God? And so when we ask the question about, like, you know, we make the statement, I wish my arms weren't too short to box with God. How many of y'all ever cuss God out? How many people have cussed God out and saying, like, why am I in this predicament? Why am I dealing with this right now? Why me? Mm-hmm. And I think it's a legitimate question. Of course, people try to give answers and you know, say, you know, God has a plan and all of that type of stuff. But you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear that because it wasn't supposed to be the way it happened. At least that's what we believe.
So for those of you who are watching right now, we're getting ready to get into our points for this evening. And I want you to make sure that you, again, as I always say, pay attention to the things that stand out to you and the things that resonate with you, because there are going to be some things that resonate in a very particular kind of way. And you need to make sure you write it down. If you don't, you'll be like me. I'm like, what was that? You forget. So write it down so that you can resonate with it and meditate on it a little bit later on tonight and throughout the week. So the first thing that we really want to look at is this. Loss is messy. Grief is messy, right? And we cannot put it in a box. We're talking about, because of the loss that I experienced with the childhood friend of mine, we came to you talking about that. But loss can happen in so many ways. And so when we think about relationships, it's not just somebody. People think often about betrayal. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, do you understand that if somebody cheats on you, if there's infidelity, that's a betrayal, right? And that's a loss, that you've got to grieve the relationship that you had. And if you don't grieve the relationship that you had that was there, at least that you thought you had, right? Even your perception of the relationship, your perception of your partner, you have to grieve that. If you don't grieve that, then you will not appropriately make room for what's supposed to happen moving forward, whether you're going to stay together or whether you're not. You can't do it because that's still in the way. But that's a loss, right? Mm-hmm. Loss can also look like somebody changing and shifting in the midst of the relationship, right? And saying that they're going to do one thing and not doing it, not showing up for you, right? Maybe they're going through a midlife crisis. I don't know what they're going through. They're dealing with some stuff, and that's loss, that's grief. And so what we have to understand is that it happens in all kinds of ways. It comes out. And so sometimes we don't recognize that some of the stuff that we're going through in our life and some of the things that we're dealing with, we're like, I don't know why I just feel so down. I've just been in a special place. One of my sisters, who is a member of the Art of Overcoming here on Facebook with Iyana Ma'at, shameless plug, go ahead and look for it. You know, she said, I've been in a special place lately. And I like that. And so we have to understand that grief is multi-layered. It's dynamic. It shows up in all kinds of ways. Many of y'all have heard about the Kubler-Ross stages of grief, right? And we're going to get into that. I love your question, Rochelle. Rochelle says, how do you come back from it? How do you come back from it? So we're going to get into that. But the first thing that I want you to know is this. Guess what? Before you can come back from it, Rochelle, you got to sit in it. Oh, yeah. You might be, I just want to sing some more on that. You got to sit in it. I don't like to sit in feelings of grief. I don't like to sit in no feelings of discomfort. My husband knows. I'm like down, I'm sad. Let's turn it around. Where we going? Mm-hmm. I don't want to do it because it's uncomfortable for me, because it's painful, because it hurts. But I want you all to know this evening that wherever you've had some trauma, wherever you've had some disruption to your life, wherever there's been a betrayal, wherever there's been loss, whatever you're grieving, or maybe you don't even know you're grieving. Huh? You don't even know. That's what you're doing. That's what you're going through right now. You're grieving who you thought you were. You're grieving what you thought you would get. You're grieving that you ain't get that job. I mean, grief happens in all kinds of ways. If you don't sit in it, you will miss what you need to get from it. And then as you keep moving forward, whether you're trying to heal the relationship where there was a betrayal, right? Whether you're trying to, you know, turn your career around and you're trying to figure out what happened, how did I lose this job? How did I get fired? What happened? If you don't sit in that thing, you can't hear a word from God. You can't get a sense of like what's happening within yourself if you don't do that. So that's the first thing. How do you come back from it? Sit in it. I sit every single week. My husband sits every single week. Sometimes we do it together when we're working with couples, and oftentimes we also do it individually with individuals. And I sit with them in their grief. It's a precious place to be.
A precious place.
You understand? It's a precious place to be. It's painful. People are like, man, people come in. I didn't even want to come today. I didn't want to come, but they come on in there and they sit down, and then we just talk and we open it up. And so wherever way you can find to open up where been, right? We talk about journaling. I talk a lot about talking to your phone because I like to, you know, it's easy for me to talk. I just get my phone and I can just, you know, talk in that thing and record. Whatever you got to do, you got to get with a friend. You got to have a special place, whether you go to church. I don't know what you do, but you got to find a place to open that thing up, pull it out and look at it. I'm mad as hell. We know, you know, there are several stages to grieve, and we're not going to go in detail with them because we want to talk to you tonight about how to get through. But we cannot, we can't just rush through it. We can't rush through it. We got to learn how to sit in it, and we got to learn what to expect. So we want to talk to you a little bit about some of the stages of grief, and then we're going to get into how do you push through.
Yeah, that was really profound what you said about sitting in it, baby, because I'm looking at comments over here on YouTube, and Brian Bro, he said, just let it burn.
Let it burn.
Yeah, feel that thing, y'all.
My mind.
Feel it. And, you know, when we try to rush past it, and again, that's some people's way to cope and deal with grief. But, you know, when we try to rush past it, then we miss the opportunity to enter into that precious place, that sacred space that only grieving and healing can afford us. And so, you know, don't rush through it. Sit in that thing. Let it burn, like Brian Bro says. And, you know, when you do that, you'll be able to come to a place of reckoning within where you realize that, you know, you have to put certain things in perspective. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. But the first thing, like my wife just mentioned, is that, you know, just sit with that thing and acknowledge that it is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And you know, we don't. And so for some of y'all who are out here who have experienced a traumatic loss, whether it be of a spouse, a parent, a child, and even in your relationship, whether it be a divorce, infidelity, or any of that type of stuff, like, what do you do to get through that? What have you done to shift the dynamic and to get through it? Like, what was your initial reaction? I'm pretty sure it was anger. And actually, if we look at this whole Kubler-Ross stages of grief, based off of what she indicates, you know, it speaks to the fact that there's an element of denial that's present first. You got the whole denial piece where you're not really willing to acknowledge and accept the reality of what has been presented to you. And so there's denial that's present.
So how many people know, and maybe this is you, maybe it's been you, you don't have to raise your hand. How many people know somebody whose partner was stepping out on them, right? And they was doing that joint for like a minute. And like everybody knew. Everybody had a sense to someone, right? And then they just somehow don't know. They're like, you know, they don't have any sense of it. You know, when they finally do find out, they're like, how is this so? Like, I mean, I don't even understand. They just like, it smacks them in the face. And so they're operating in a place of denial. I cannot even see what I see. You the one live with the person. You with him every day. You know that he ain't been home. You know he's gone all the time. Where is he? And you don't see it, right? Because you can't afford to see it. And so we have to understand that actually in that process is beginning sometimes for many people of the grieving process. I just got to be in denial because I'm just betrayal piece and look at that in time. And
so we mentioned the whole denial piece, but after the denial phase, you got, and 5 stages of grief was intention was not for it to be sequential.
Right.
You can jump all around and experience it in different ways, but if we look at it in order, the next phase would be the whole anger piece. And again, the anger piece, the title of this whole thing right here is "I wish my arms weren't too short to box with God."
Because I'm still mad.
Angry. I'm mad. I'm angry as I don't know what. Like, this was not supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to happen. So looking at it in the context of your relationship, I committed my life to you.
Mm-hmm.
I gave you my spirit. I gave you my energy. I gave you my essence. And you betrayed our children. I gave you the best of me and you betrayed me. And so I'm angry as hell. I'm pissed off. I'm apoplectic. I'm just like, on 1,000. I can't deal with this right here.
Did y'all catch that? You what? What did you say? Apple what?
Apoplectic.
What's that?
It means you're just so angry you can't say anything.
I like when you do that.
And so, that's where I'm at. And I think that it's important that, again, that's an important place to be, and it's a necessary place to be. If you don't get angry, then you're suppressing some emotions that need to be expressed. And it's not to say you need to wild out and go off on a person, but again, somebody said Apple what?
Simone said Apple what?
What's up, Simone?
I know Apple what? Apoplectic. This is the wordsmith right here. What's up, Stephanie? Hey,
go ahead and share this video, y'all. So anger is a critical piece in terms of the grieving process. If you skip past that and you don't experience it, then you possibly delay the process of healing.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to talk about anger for a second because, a couple of live streams ago, I got mad. We were talking about, what was the name of that live stream? What we supposed to be doing for men? Women supposed to do for men? What was that stupid article?
It was
a stupid article. What was it?
The 1950s woman.
It was a 1950s article, y'all. Who was on that? If you were on that, drop a heart. Something. I need to understand where y'all at.
You still ain't put your ribbon in your hair. Your red ribbon.
I ain't put no damn ribbon in my hair. Come on, put a ribbon in your hair when your husband get home, and you know what I'm saying, all this type of stuff. Put the fire on and don't question him. Y'all remember that? Some of y'all remember that. I see it's a few hearts. Some of y'all remember that, right? So I got mad. I got angry. And one of the things I think is really important.
Said, I like that one.
You like that? You like that one?
That was fun.
I was mad. I was like for real mad. It was in my feelings. You know what I'm saying? I was. I was. But here's the thing. People get uncomfortable with anger. Mm-hmm. And I want to release, yes, I was mad. I want to release people from this inhibition. See, because it's actually socially inappropriate to get mad. Like if you're at work and you're like, did this fool just say that? Like, you can't get mad, right? And I actually have trained myself. I know how to, I know how to politely cuss you out and you never even knew. You like, when you're done, you're like, what happened? You know what I'm saying? I know how to do it because I can't just get mad and I can't just let it out. But that kind of training, which is helping you know how to navigate through our life, that thing right there, if you're trying to be appropriate all the time, if God's got it all the time, if everything's going to be okay all the time, then where in the world do you get audacity? Does anybody walk with any audacity? Does anybody walk with any sense of like, what the fuck? Does anybody do that? Or it's like, oh my God, no, because everything is all good. Everything is all right. I am upset, but everything is going to be all right. That's fine. But oftentimes I'm working with people in session to just get mad, to get angry, to talk about what you're angry about, to talk about how you're angry with yourself, how you're angry with your mother, your father, your sibling, your spouse, right? And there's certain people out here who we just can't do it. We do, we have to qualify it. Well, yeah, but I know that they didn't mean it like that. Well, I know that he's got a lot of issues. Well, I know my mother, she's been through a lot. That's fine. But I want to release you in some way to be able to do that, because when you can get in touch with that, it's very healing and it's very cleansing. Mm-hmm. If you move into a place of forgiveness, for example, and you do not get angry, yes, then you are not truly being cleansed. Because that purges and gets out some of the funkiness. So I just, I'm saying, and I am a recovering aggressaholic, so I think I know something about it.
Oh yeah, you do.
You know what I'm saying? I'm a recovering aggressaholic. You want to know a little bit about anger? Talk to me. Yeah. I've had some things to get mad about. And I went all the way in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. So anger is a part of the process, y'all. Anger is a part of the process.
And then after the whole anger piece, we enter into the space where we start to
But it's not sequential.
Yeah, it's not sequential, but you can start to ask yourself questions. That's when the whole bargaining piece comes into play. You start to try to bargain and say, what if I did this? What if I would have checked the cell phone, just a little bit more? What if I would have asked him or her to
gave him a little more sex?
Yeah. What if I would have gave him a little bit more sex? What if I would have asked him or her to call me, when they were leaving the office and that type of thing? What if I would have been more nice at home and more? You start to bargain and see what you may have done differently that could have impacted the relationship positively. And, in that process right there, again, you're trying to figure out, where did you go wrong? Where did you go wrong and mess this thing up? So essentially what you're doing is you're assuming the responsibility within a relationship context for your partner's actions. And is that cool? To assume the responsibility for what your partner has done? No. You're in a relationship with a grown-ass man, a grown-ass woman. What they do is what they decide to do. And so the question then becomes, how do you respond to what they do? So yes, you're dealing with hurt. Yes, you're dealing with grief. Yes, you're dealing with loss. But in the space of trying to reconcile what they've done versus the pain that you feel, how do you deal with that? How do you negotiate that? And again, bargaining is a natural thing that you might have a tendency to do, but you're not responsible for their actions. You're not responsible for their actions. They need to take ownership of their own stuff.
Yeah. So bargaining happens, then you start trying to work through some things, right? Somebody might say, I need to go talk to somebody. I need to get into some counseling. I need to go talk to some people in my family. That's right. Aggressive-holic. Hold up. You said aggressive-holic? Aggressive-holic. Aggressive-holic. Like it's a real word. It's really not, but, and once you, get to this place where you really try to work through some things, then you start to move back into acceptance and hope. Acceptance and hope is really where you want to arrive. You really do want to arrive there, because if you're not able to get into a place where you understand that everything in some way, I'm giving my personal opinion, is perhaps in divine order. Do you mean to say, Iyanna, that I went through that foolishness with that man who did all that to me and it was supposed to happen? Is that what you're saying to me? Do you mean to say, Iyanna, that I lost my child in the streets? Do you mean to tell me that my father, who was on drugs and was not there for me and who never showed up for me, that was in divine order? Be careful, Iyanna. Be careful. One thing that I personally feel, and one thing that I personally know, and I struggle with it, but it's real. Everything is in order. Everything is in order. What does that really mean? It means that nothing happens for naught. Nothing happens just because, whether or not you take advantage of what has happened, whether or not you get to a place of hope and acceptance. That's what we're talking about, getting to this place of hope and acceptance. It's up to you. Because once you move through hope and acceptance, then you can get into divine alignment with, like, what am I supposed to do with this? I sit with a gentleman every week, and he's experienced extreme trauma in his life. And this man is one of the most sensitive souls that I know. And I'm like, yo, I just can't wait to see what you're going to give birth to and who you're going to be touching in the world and what other men you're going to be giving life to because of what you've gone through. In some way, you got to understand that the trauma that we go through, that the betrayal, the loss, the grief, that all of it is a part of the divine plan. What else can it be? What else can it be? You can sit with it and we can just stay stuck. We got to go through the process, or we can take it in, sit in the stuff and figure out, oh, Lord, what am I supposed to do with this? You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. What am I supposed to do with this? So I love what I'm seeing in the chat right now. I see that some folks, I believe in divine order, but patience in waiting is so bleeping hard. See, that's where I get angry again, Cherish says, trying to accept it, right? Somebody else, Rochelle, talked about waiting for it to be okay.
And I see Brian over here, he mentioned, I've tried not to give anger too much time. I've learned not to give anger too much time. And that's a legitimate point right there, because you can let that anger thing fester and it can become cancerous.
That's right.
And it can just eat at your spirit.
That's right.
And so, I like what you said there, Brian.
So here's what I need you to know. Waiting for it to be okay. Waiting for it you're talking to your boo and y'all done gone through some things, and he did some stuff stuff to you, right? Betrayed you, whatever. It's 20 years later. If you say the wrong thing in the wrong way at the wrong time, he's gonna trigger something. You understand what I'm saying? You lost your mother 15 years ago, but sometimes it feels like it was just yesterday. Do you understand? So is it ever going to feel okay, like you are over it? What we always say as therapists is that there is no point of destination. There is no arrival. You will not arrive at a place where you have completely, I'm in complete healing and completely cool. It's all good. It's okay. Totally. No, you'll still go back and forth in between feeling like you're in a place of acceptance and feeling like you're in a place of, gosh, I wish my mother was here to see this. I wish my man, you know what I'm saying? I wish I still had that relationship, and I don't. And then you gotta like shift out of that. But we have to allow ourselves to be human, y'all. A lot of times we don't want to allow ourselves to be human, and we just want to kind of like be done with it. I just want to over it. And see, somebody here said you never fully heal. See, Nadia, I mean, what courage you have. You probably like, that wasn't courageous for me, right? But it's courageous to say you never fully heal, because that's a concept that is hotly debated in psychotherapy. Is full healing ever available? And then particularly in spiritual circles, can you ever fully heal? And then people who think all kinds of things. And I used to say straight up, just because I just felt like, I mean, can I be real? Can I keep it 100? Can I keep it 100? I used to say like, oh, absolutely. Complete healing is available if we just push forward. Our tagline is stop playing, start pushing. Absolutely. But now I don't say that anymore, because a part of me feels on some level that some part of us, even a small part of us, has to stay a little connected in to the hurt, a little connected into the pain of what we dealt with, of what we were going through. I don't care if it's betrayal or loss. I don't care what it is, trauma, whatever you dealt with, because if I can stay connected in just a little bit, not too much, but just a little bit, then I can then speak to somebody else and I can be relevant. You know what I'm saying? Then I can understand it in a gut level, not just in an intellectual level. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you get big, right? And you coming up and you doing big things. People say, don't forget where you came from. It's like that. Don't forget where you came from. Don't get so elevated, that you don't understand. Sometimes you just a hot mess because you've been through some serious pain and some serious hurt. So I don't know that complete and full healing is ever achievable. And I think that on some level we got to change the concept of that. It's not even like it's not achievable. It's like, what, that doesn't mean that you just get rid of those feelings that you have or the energy that you have that still sometimes feels bad to you. Sometimes maybe the bad feelings are therapeutic. Maybe you need to feel them on some level, and we need to stop resisting them, because whatever you resist, it persists. And whatever you look at, it starts to dissipate and disappear, so that you can use what you're getting to continue to push you forward in your life and in your purpose. So maybe we need to reframe, you know what I'm saying, to rethink.
I mean, it's always healing. There, but I think that the intensity of the hurt, it begins to subside with time. And I think, an important piece, well, let me just say this, that I lost a friend a couple of years ago. And anytime you lose somebody that prematurely, like, in their 30s or 20s, you're just like, damn. You're really like, damn. I mean, that's what you say. Like, this isn't 40s. You're like, and even 50s, like, damn, this wasn't supposed to happen. But what I realized is that, so in that moment when I lost my childhood friend, it hurt like hell. The intensity of the pain was just surreal. And I was in disbelief because, again, we was in our 30s and he wasn't supposed to go so soon. You know, but as time has passed, what I realized is that the intensity of that initial hurt, it subsided, but I still have those moments where I'm like, damn. And so in those moments, it may be me watching basketball on TV because we used to play high school basketball together, you know, and I see a particular move that somebody does, and it reminds me of him. And I'm like, damn, he's not here. But I'm not walking around regularly just feeling the intensity of that pain. Mm-hmm. It's when certain things come up that remind me of him. And then maybe that's him creeping into my space spiritually so that I can just acknowledge him for what he brought to my life. And so, again, I think that reframing this whole thing is extremely important. If we recognize that, you know, as time passes, some of that pain will subside, but you'll still have those moments where you're like, damn, they're not here. Now, when it comes to like a parent or even a child, you probably sit with that thing and grapple with it for way more longer than what I'm talking about as it pertains to a friend. But even then, you're going to have moments where the intensity is not the way it used to be. Mm-hmm. But you might walk into a room. You might smell a certain dish being cooked. You might get the whiff of a certain perfume or oil. You might go to a certain store and you're like, because it's jogging your memory and you're reminded of, you know, your partner. You're reminded of your child. And it just brings back fond memories of them. Or even just the whole thing that you've lost them. They're no longer here.
So one of the things that's coming forward on the chat, Erska, I love your question. She says, what do you do when your spouse doesn't allow you time to be angry? She says she's been labeled as nasty. Wow. You've been labeled as nasty. So I don't know the circumstance there. I'm not sure if you're talking about betrayal or what have you. But one thing I want people to understand, and this is moving on to our next point, is that we have to respect our own process and respect everybody else's process. I remember when my cousin died. My cousin died very young. He was how old was Buddy? He was in his early 20s, and I was, I mean, and it was just like all of a sudden out of the blue, he had a blood clot, and you know, he died like instantly. It's like early 20s. I'm like, what? And I remember my family coming together, and I remember my aunt, his mother, and how she was kind of moving and navigating. And I am, you know, pretty emotional. Or at least let me say this. A lot of people are emotional, right? You know what we tend to do? We call people who show their emotions outwardly emotional, and those who do not as not being emotional. But as my husband has said to me many times, he said, men are quite emotional. We just, you know what I'm saying? We process it a different way. It's internal, and stuff is going on the inside, but we just don't show it. Doesn't mean we're not emotional in some way as well. Right. So I've had to learn that. But that gets to the point. I remember coming together with family, and I remember his mother, my aunt, and she was very task oriented, you know, very much like kind of like handling business. Of course she had to, right? And I remember, you know, being just kind of like, gosh, like, I mean, she's not super, you know, weepy or tearful, and is she okay? Like, she just needs to feel it. And I'm concerned that she's just going to have a breakdown because she's just kind of like moving and doing so much stuff. And so what I learned through that experience and through my own work working with people is that everybody has their own process. Some people got to go to work 25,000 times harder than they were before. And we judge that. We judge that. Like, why are you out here trying to get away from it? You know, you can't do that. You know, some people are just deep in their tears and in their, you know, process of really kind of purging and letting through. You have to respect the process. So Erska, you asked, what do you do when your spouse, I don't know if you're talking about a betrayal here, doesn't allow you the time to be angry, doesn't allow you the space to be angry, and you're labeled as being nasty. You fiercely stand up for yourself, and you make sure that you say, I am who I am. I cannot be on your clock or your watch. I can't do it like you do. Do you know how many times me and my husband in various ways, not just with regards to grief or loss, you know, how he's had to stand in his space and be like, boo, this is me. I've had to come to him and say, look, this is who I be. Because we talk a lot about, you know, partners and how you attract the opposite kind of complementary partner. So the thing that attracts me to Aize in some way at some times agitates me. And the thing that pulls him towards me in some ways and sometimes irritates him. And what we have to do is we have to just accept. But you don't need permission to do your process. You don't need permission. We want it. I want him to be all right with me. I want him to be okay with me. I don't like when he's in a mood. I don't like when he's feeling some type of way. But I've got to have some sense of knowing that, look, I gotta do what I need to do for me. He's got to be able to do what he needs to do for him in his own process. So you don't need somebody else
process. That's really a
to give you permission to. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a good question. No. All people know how they feel. When you were a little kid, you knew how you felt. You know what you thought.
You can't always put words to it.
You know what I'm saying? You may not always be able to put words to it, but that usually comes out of being in a place where you were taught not to put words to it. You are learning that. Because think about our baby Allende, our 2-year-old, as he continues to grow. Even now, this little boy, he tell you what he thinks. He says, like, I want this. He don't hesitate.
Yeah.
But we learn how to accommodate other people in our environment, and we unlearn how to pay attention to ourselves. So we gotta push fiercely against that.
One thing that I want to say in reference to your question, and again, we don't know the context, we don't have the backstory, but one thing that I want to lift up is that sometimes perpetrators or offenders, especially as it pertains to infidelity, get real indignant and try to defend their post. And so they take a stance, a hard stance, and they try to make you wrong for asking questions. They try to make you wrong for asking for space. They try to make you wrong for trying to be in your process of healing. Again, they get real indignant, and they take a position of, all high and mighty, like you're wrong for approaching they did, when they did it, how they did it, and who they did it with. But again, you need to make sure that you're comfortable in asking those questions, because you got every good goddamn right to ask all of those questions and get your needs met. You got every right to get your needs met and to feel what you feel and to go through a process of healing. Again, it might not be at their pace, but so what? So what? You're going through this process at your pace. And so again, what you can do is you can invite them into experience and be a part of your process, but for them to try to rush you through, how selfish is that? To try to rush you through your process of healing. That's straight up selfish. And it's irresponsible on their part to think that you got to you got your own too, so they need to respect your process and stop trying to make you comply with theirs.
So I love what Brian said. Brian said this brother is keeping it 100 tonight. He said, I have cried like hell on the inside many times. Give me a second. Whoa. Now I had to do that because I don't even know what the hell that means. Brian, my brother, I love your transparency. I just don't understand what that means. I have cried like hell on the inside many times. Now that probably says a lot about me. It says a lot about me. If I'm crying, the tears are coming on the outside. If I'm feeling some type of way, it's coming out of my mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like I kind of, you know what I'm saying? I'm expressive like that. I got on the I've been in a place, y'all, lately where I was not showing and doing what I need to do, and kind of scared and, doing some new things for women and with women and in my business. In a nutshell, I don't want to go down this long lane, but I was not showing up. And I got online and did a live stream inside of The Art of Overcoming here on Facebook with Deanna Mott. And I said, I've been hiding. Now, I didn't want to say that. I wanted to come on there real quick and say something real surface, but I don't even know how. You know what I'm saying? I didn't tell myself I've been hiding. I ain't been doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and I'm kind of scared. God is calling me to a place of transparency, and I don't like it. I'm like, what the hell? This is not what the plan was, Yana. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm saying is, Brian said it's a man thing. So I want you to, for so many of us, especially women who are listening right now, crying on the inside. You know what I'm saying? This really feeling your feelings, but it's completely internal. And that's not just a man. A minute, but then I get all, so talk about that.
It's not a complicated process or concept. It's not a complicated concept.
You trying to go on me right now on the
slide? It's really just internalizing what you externalize.
You see how you try to do that? It's not actually not complicated.
It's not complicated.
So you just need to understand.
We internalize what you externalize. And so whatever hurt, whatever pain, whatever agony, whatever frustration, whatever fear, instead of externalizing that, again, we internalize it. And so we allow that thing to sit within, and sometimes it manifests and it looks differently for men. It may end up in being depression. It may manifest as us overeating, not eating. It may manifest as us, engaging in reckless acts of sex and et cetera, et cetera. It may just, manifest in us not really wanting to engage and wanting to connect and wanting to spend more time alone. It can manifest in so many different ways. It's metaphoric and it's what we all do in so many ways before you reach a point to where it becomes external.
Yeah.
You actually experience it internally first, and then you externalize that thing. And so what Brian is talking about is 1,000% true. We've been conditioned not to externalize, not to express, not to emote as men, and to keep that thing bottled up. But just because we keep it bottled up, it doesn't mean that the tears aren't flowing internally. It doesn't mean that we're not at a place of rage, of anger, of hurt, of depression, of sadness, of loneliness internally. We say express that thing or verbalize that thing in the way that you all do. And so again, it's real. It's absolutely real. And it's what a lot of men experience, and women as well. Women as well experience this thing too. So again, just because your man is quiet, just because your man doesn't emote the same way that you do, just because your man doesn't talk as much as you do, it does not mean that he does not feel. Mm-hmm. Again, he can have a whole world going on internally. And yes, you want to know what that world is. And yes, it's his responsibility to invite you in and to share what that space is. But again, it's a very sacred space. And if we haven't been conditioned to do so, it's going to take time to chisel away at that brick wall so that you're able to see what's on the other side.
So guys, the last thing, you just broke that thing down.
No, thank you, man.
Thank you, Black man. Mm-hmm. The last thing that I want to ask you all, I want everybody to write this down for the writers out there. And for those who are not writing, I want you to, etch it in your mental etch-a-sketch. Okay. And I want you to really take this in. What is it that you need to grieve? Yeah. Oh. Every single person watching right now needs to grieve something. Everybody. Oh, I'm good. I'm straight. Oh, I've been there. I'm good. No, everybody does. What is it that you need to grieve? What is it that you have not fully, really paid attention to in terms of the hurt, in terms of the loss, the loneliness? What is it? I don't know what it is, but I would just ask you to just take a minute, take a second. If you can't do it tonight, try to do it another day this week. But guess what? You're probably not going to do it.
And so once you recognize that it's overwhelming, pick up one piece at a time. I don't know what piece it's going to be. I don't know if it's the right piece. I don't know if you're trying to put two wrong pieces together, but just to pick up one piece at a time is movement in the direction to try to overcome, or at least move through and deal with and negotiate the whole grieving process. You can't stay sitting there forever because that thing would definitely eat at you. And so again, to pick up one piece at a time in that 5,000 piece puzzle is, is a step in a direction towards healing.
And I just add to that, Cherish, that, grief is unpredictable. Mm-hmm. Like my husband talked about earlier, you get triggered, you be at the Starbucks and smell a smell and be like, oh, you know what I mean? You be sitting in your house, somebody say something, they sound familiar and it's not, it's not the person you're thinking about, right? Or perhaps it's not about a loss in terms of someone physically, but it's about, something that you want to have in your life and you just don't have it. So it just, certain times, holidays, right? People who, you had somebody, y'all was going to get married, you know what I'm saying? And y'all was going to have a life together and have some children, have a family. And here you are by yourself now. And that person, it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. And so now holiday times come up and here you around all your family and your sister and your brother, where everybody got families and they coming together and you got little kids, you know what I'm saying? And that thing come up, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm still sitting here by myself. And that's not where I thought I would be, right? And so then some of that grief comes up. I would just tell you to let it come. That's the one thing that I tell people all the time. Let it come. Let it come. Let it come. Let the feelings come. They will pass through. The piece where we mess up, y'all, is that we do not allow ourselves to feel our feelings.
That's true.
We don't allow ourselves to feel it because it feels too much. It feels very intense. So allow it to come. Allow it to wash over you. Sit in it. If you don't from this live stream tonight, other than those 3 words, sit in it, then just take that. Sit in it. Because it doesn't stay with you. It doesn't. It may stay for 5 minutes. It may stay for 30. It may stay, it may, but it will move forward. The feelings will pass and you'll start to get some inspiration and some feelings and some thoughts about what you need to do next, maybe. Right? Or you'll get all kinds of things, but you have to allow the feelings to come. So that's what I would say to you. What do? I got lots of stuff I'm grieving. Just let the feelings come. And maybe every time you feel some thoughts down about what it is that's going on for you, what it is you're feeling, so that you're not pushing it out of the way and actually stagnating your healing process. Christina is so courageous tonight. Christina says, grieving my marriage and it's in shambles. Grieve that thing, sis. Grieve it. Doesn't mean it's over. It could be in shambles, a hot, funky mess. A hot, funky mess. But the moment you grieve it, in order to grieve something, you have to see clearly. You have to look at it clearly for what it is. Because to grieve means that you are recognizing that there is a loss. Mm-hmm. You're recognizing that something is off and something is wrong and something is moving away from your grip. So the moment you begin the process of grieving, it means that you are getting really clear about what is. And guess what's so beautiful about that? When you get clear about what is, then and only then can you start to pay attention to what you can do differently. Mm-hmm. You can't try to do something differently and you don't recognize what's really going on in your midst. Mm. So grieve that thing. It may be in shambles. You won't be the first or the last person. And so you just go into that place so that you can then get out of that place. It's okay. It's okay. Show love, Morton. Show love. You said, I love it. I cried for 3 days, had to take off work. On the 3rd day, I laughed so much. Gosh, that's beautiful. You just brought a little tear to my eye, girl. That's beautiful. Because see, you took off for 3 days. You allowed yourself some space and you allowed yourself to go through the process. And when we stop, pushing ourselves, going to work, sometimes we got to go to work, right? Like we got to make the money, right? But, if we stop trying to get away from depend on anybody. I know sometimes people are not trying to not, show up. But that's what it feels like. That's just not real life, y'all. You can't get away.
That's walking in fear.
That is.
It's a certain level of anxiety that you experience and feel when you consider that, somebody that you're connected to may possibly pass away. And so you try to push that thing away because you don't want to connect. You don't want to connect. You don't want to hurt. You don't want to love. You don't want to experience that loss. And so if anybody's experiencing that, then they're denying themselves the opportunity to experience the blessing of being in a relationship. It's a wonderful blessing, y'all. But you got to step to it. You got to step in it. You got to go through it. You got to be willing to deal with the discomfort. You got to. And a part of that is going through this right here. Nobody.
I know. I'm just thinking about Jennifer.
Nobody expected this wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't. Everybody believed, and she was a believer, and she was a faith warrior, and it wasn't supposed to. I wish my arms weren't too short to box with God.
But to know her. And I know this is a cliche, to know her. Dang, I can't stand when I cry. To know her was to love her. When I was little, I looked up to her. She was an entrepreneur. She was somebody who had her own business, a Black woman who had her own business, who inspired so many people because she dealt with so much struggle and heartache, right? But still was like out here like mentoring other people. Think about all the people in your life who you've lost and the people in your life right now who are close to you. And someday you might lose them. But at the end of the day, y'all, will you cut yourself off from genuine connection? Will you cut yourself off from the blessing of being able to witness somebody in their brilliance? Because Jennifer Washington Grillo was brilliant. Because she came here already ready to do her business. I'm going to end with this story. I've told it probably about 55,011 times. But, I'm going to tell it again. It kind of loosely correlates. Wayne Dyer is a psychologist and a spiritual teacher, and he talks about the fact that, his entrance into the world was not a good one. It was not by many people's, estimation. It was pretty traumatic. He came into the world and he was basically abandoned by his parents. Right. And he just had a rough time in foster care and was, traumatized and all this kind of stuff. Right. He says is he had to reframe. And I want you all to reframe the losses that you've experienced. Reframing in mental health and social work is about being able to understand that there is a different way to look at things. It doesn't mean you have to abandon one way of looking at things, but you can reframe. You can switch out the frame and say, but wow, if I had not experienced this, if I had not absorbed this energy, this issue, this incident, I might not be able to have the clarity of mind, to have the sense of purpose that I have in my life that I have right now. I might not have been propelled forward to my relationship if I didn't experience the funkiness, right? You know what I mean? So you don't want to experience the funkiness, but if I hadn't, I might not be so committed to making sure that I do everything that I can to hold up my family, or do everything that I can to work on myself and to stop resisting working on myself because it's so damn painful. Because I want to be better. So Wayne Dyer said that he imagines, and some of y'all have heard me say this before, work with me through it again. He imagines that he was up in heaven. He's up in heaven and it's time for him to be born into the world. And he says, all right, God, it's my turn. And God says, yes, Wayne, it's your time. It's your time. It's time for you to go down. I need you to tell me what it is that you want to learn. And Wayne says, yeah, I've been talking to other people. They told me that when it's time to go down onto the earth and into the earth, that I have to figure out what's the lesson that I want to get. And God says, yes, you need to tell me. And so he said, okay, well, I've been thinking about this a lot, God. I think that I want to learn how to deal with rejection. I want to learn how to deal with rejection. And God says, are you sure? He said, yeah, because rejection is a big thing. People can feel rejected being children and not being able to, be popular, and kids making fun of you. People can feel rejection because you want to be with somebody and they don't want you. People can feel rejection because, you're in a relationship and somehow it's not working and this person is not, they're not supporting you and loving you in the way that you need. And people can feel rejected in so many ways. And I just want to learn about rejection. And I would love to understand more about that. And God said, this is a story. This is what he said. This is how he figures he came into the world, if he could surmise it. God said, all right, you can go into the world with the sole purpose of learning about rejection, but make sure that's the lesson you want to learn, because if that's the lesson you want to learn, trust me, it will be a thorough lesson. And so he says, yeah, God, that's what I want. He said, all right. And he sends him down into the world. Wayne Dyer, this is the truth. He was born into the world and he was abandoned by all alone. He went through a foster care system. He was in many foster homes. In fact, he was in so many foster homes that, he got the of homes that he, kind of was shuttled back and forth through in the system that he was in. He dealt with so much trauma. He was abused in some of these homes, so much rejection, so much. And it was unfair and overwhelming, is what one foster care social worker said. It's unfair and overwhelming, the amount of trauma this young boy had to go through. And so to kind of expedite this story, he grew up, and what happened to him is that he became a psychologist. He wanted to start to understand how do people deal with trauma and different stuff. And he had no recollection that he was supposed to be in the world learning all about rejection. And eventually what happened for him is that he became a world-renowned author, teacher, lecturer, and master of learning and teaching other people how to deal with rejection. Because he not only dealt with not feeling, the love and the connection of his own mother and father, but he also dealt with the loss of so many different people who he had been attached to along his journey. He dealt with all of that. And so there was purpose in it. But somebody could clearly easily say, but what's the purpose of that, God? Why? What's up with that? Why is it that I would deal with that loss? Why is it that he would come into the world not being anchored? I oftentimes say to people, there's no greater feeling of being disoriented and being detached and feeling alone than not having an anchor. And so many of us take for granted the fact that we have had parents or some caretaker, somebody who's been consistent in our life that gives us an anchor. There's so many people who don't feel anchored, who don't have, and children who are born into the world and who somehow don't have parents to care for them, or in the foster care system, what have you. They don't have any anchor. They're just floating. That's a painful place to be.
Yeah.
But there is purpose in everything, in every loss, in every hurt, in every pain, in every piece of grief. I just want to shout out, I don't know if that's Moncho or Nawasha watching us right now that just joined in, but we talked about y'all a little bit earlier. Congratulations on your new baby coming into the world. And so tonight, guys, I just want you to understand that in everything, there is purpose. In everything, there is a plan. I'm just going to go ahead and go to church real quick. Do you mind?
Go ahead.
God is not concerned with our circumstances. I know you're going to be like, what? Some of y'all are like, wait a minute. God is not concerned with the physical circumstances. If we look at the tree of life, if we look at what we're supposed to be doing in terms of spiritually transcending and elevating and learning the lessons we need to learn, all of the things that we experience in our human life come to teach us and come to grow us and come to learn us. And so we get attached to a certain level of detail. Fundamentally, it's all about moving forward and growing spiritually within ourselves. That's what the point is. I love this man and he loves me, but we're here to be spiritual teachers to each other. I love my children and I love my community, but they're here to teach me. They're here to grow me. And so as I sit here and I'm going to show this picture for the last time, my sister Jennifer Grillo, away at the age of 43. And the pain is thick for me. She taught me so much in her time here. And I just want to say to you, what I heard said earlier today. Discern what your purpose is. Discern what your call is. Discern what your issues are. Discern what it is you need to work on. Because you can get caught up in the circumstances and you can get caught up in the pain. And you should make sure that you focus on purging the pain and you focus on the anger and you focus on all the natural, normal emotions that we're going to have going through some loss and some grief and some pain. But at the end of the day, you're being built up. You're built for this because it's all purpose. You may not understand it, but understanding is not required. You just have to make sure that you push forward and that you are pushing and leaning into what is it that I'm supposed to get from this? Because I tell y'all, I said when I found out she passed, I said, what the hell is going on? What's the point of this? What's the point of somebody fighting 3 years for their life only to succumb? But let me tell you something. I said this earlier today. If one of her divine assignments was to teach other people how to fight with faith, then she did it. She did it. Her work is done. Yeah. If God used her life to teach other people how to fight with faith, she did it. Her work is done. She got cancer. Her heart was traumatized by the chemo. She needed a new heart. Reframe, Shakira. Her work is done. God is like, well done. You did it. I'm attached. But she did it. If that was one of her divine assignments, if that was the divine assignment, well, damn. I'm like, wait a minute. She's only 43. You know what I'm saying? Like, she need to stay here with me. She need to stay here with all of her folks, her sister, her father, her husband. But her work is done, though. And so we got to think bigger. We got to think broader about the things that we experience in our life. We've got to understand that it's bigger than us, but we've also got to allow ourselves to make sure that we feel the feelings so that we can get the fullness of what it is we're supposed to get so that we can be all that we're supposed to be. At the end of the day, that's what I like to say. At the end of the day, we cannot do any of these things, my brothers and my sisters, if we don't stop playing, stop resisting, stop hiding, stop running, and start pushing. Peace, y'all. Peace and blessings.
Peace, y'all.
Oh, my.